Whether you drive a car,
need a car,
or just occasionally bum a ride with friends,
you've come to the right place.
Join Jill and Tom as they break down everything that's going on in the auto world.
New car reviews,
Shopping tips,
driving green,
electric cars,
classic cars,
and plenty of great guests.
This is the Consumer Guide Car Stuff Podcast.
All right, this is the Consumer Guide Car Stuff Podcast. I am Tom Appel. Thank you for joining us today. When you have a moment, check us out at consumerguide.com. You know the drill. Check out our Best Buy picks if you're looking for a new car or truck. If you're not, you can stream the podcast right there on our homepage, plus all my reviews. I spend a lot of time writing these reviews. People should read them. Jill, do you know what I just reviewed?
What did you just review?
The QX80.
Okay.
The vehicle I have professed to hate now for, years?
Years. And
Years.
we talked about it a couple episodes ago, too.
Yeah, the new one?
Yeah.
So much better. It's competitive now.
Okay.
That voice is Jill Ciminillo. She is the managing editor at Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk. She's a North American Car of the Year juror, and she does freelance stuff. How are you, Jill?
I am doing okay.
Obviously, you're rushed. You're eating lunch in the studio.
I am. I'm having Wendy's chili today.
That smells good.
It is really good.
I'm taking off my headphones.
Okay.
Yeah, we were just joking about that. I don't like headphones.
I like the headphones.
Do you?
Yeah.
It's hot out. Let me complain about that. Chicago has been, we have dodged so many heat bullets this year.
We have.
Like, it hasn't been hot. We've had some warm days, some humid days, but like summer.
Right.
None of this crazy stuff. Now, we're deep into the late summer, and it's going to be 93 today, and I think almost 100 tomorrow.
That sounds like lovely weather to me.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Like you do like it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're nuts.
I am, in fact, nuts.
We just literally argued about you not liking cream-filled donuts.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Yes.
Because what if the cream was on top of the donut?
No. Actually.
But it's just cream.
Ugh.
So pumpkin pie, would you put whipped cream on that?
I'd put ice cream on it.
You see, I don't know that that's a whole lot different.
It's different.
Okay, we've got a lot to talk about today. Later in the show, Brendan Appel from the Sons of Speed joins us. We're going to be talking muscle cars, pony cars, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. They've got 2 videos.
Yep.
Did you watch them?
I did.
Good videos.
Yep.
The track video with him and Paul, very telling. They drove the Dark Horse,
yes,
Mustang Dark Horse on the track. And then they did a walk around of the GT that I think I drove, so I know that car well.
Yes.
The Mustang GT. We're talking a little bit about, too, the coming Dodge muscle cars, air quotes. Can electric cars be muscle cars?
And you know what? I would love, I would love people's feedback on that. I mean, we're going to be talking about it, and I would love to hear people's opinions. And if you feel like giving us your opinion, they should send an email to...
I don't know.
You don't know what your email address is?
What I always forget when I'm asked. What is it? I'll think of it shortly.
Okay, but send us an email, comment on Facebook.
Car Stuff at consumerguide.com.
Yeah. What is the name of this podcast again?
The Car Stuff Podcast.
Yeah. Okay. So send us an email, and maybe we'll read them on air.
An interesting thing about muscle cars and collector cars and electric is that there is a movement, and it's very divisive, to put electric drivetrains into old vehicles, largely because there are a lot of old vehicles where there aren't really engine parts available. Yeah. Like when you start to get to things that are slightly obscure, like we know that like Tim Waltz, right? That's the VP candidate, drives an International Scout. International stuff going back more than 50 years or so, I bet you have a very hard time finding reliable engine parts.
Yeah.
So converting one of those to electric, interesting.
Yeah. I've seen Broncos converted to electric.
There's a company doing that. Yeah, and I think that's probably a pretty successful conversion.
Yeah.
All right, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. I wanted to just clarify something.
Okay.
We talked about your colleague, my colleague, M.E. Hall,
yes,
whom I have not met. So let's say your colleague. But I was watching some videos over the weekend. One of the interesting things that we talked about her Miata, and we used the term off-road, and I just wanted to clarify off-road. Because
not on pavement?
Well, but it's not racing against like a Jeep Wrangler.
No.
So when we talk off-road, there's that. And then there's rally racing, for which we see a lot of Subaru WRXs and things like that. And she's doing some crazy hybrid racing, kind of desert trail running stuff. And one of the categories she's in, or one of the races she's in, is all modified stuff that people have just done crazy things with their cars. Yeah. So it's off-road, but it's not off-road in the conventional.
It's not going down the Rubicon Trail.
Yeah, it's not a Ford Bronco. Right.
Yes.
It would never do that.
No.
But it would also kill a Bronco on a straight line or
Yeah.
Yeah, some sort of desert course. So there you have it. I just wanted to clarify that. I felt like we were casual
Okay.
with the definitions.
Okay.
ID Buzz.
Yeah.
ID Buzz. It seems like we've been waiting for that now since about the time my daughter was baptized.
I know. I'm like, this was like
1999.
pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
I think I saw it at the first auto show, maybe 2018, 2019.
There is some really weird, I don't want to get into it, Volkswagen infighting about bringing this car to the U.S. at all.
Oh,
But
yeah.
since it's based on American culture,
Yeah.
it's literally called Buzz, which is absolutely a marijuana reference. I mean, they can pretend it's not, but it's funny, and I appreciate it.
Okay.
But this thing is coming in expensive.
Yeah, it's a little more expensive than what I hoped it would be.
Yeah, so it's about this, for people to know, the ID Buzz is a minivan with a great retro look. So 10 points out of 10 for design. It looks good. And then the interior just looks contemporary. It doesn't look retro on the inside. But we kind of, it's a little bit shorter than a Pacifica. And it's not available with a whole bunch of range.
No, the range is a little disappointing.
Like 230 to 240 miles,
Yeah.
which you would expect more. And you've got a big wheelbase. You could stick a battery in there. So I
Right.
don't know what the deal is. Starts at $62,000.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, but
And that's the starting price.
that is the starting price. There's 3 trims. Isn't the Pro S, and then the first edition? Is that how they're?
I hate Volkswagen trim levels.
Yeah.
So you call this ID Buzz, which is fun.
Yeah.
Why can't you have fun trim levels then?
I know. You could do something.
Pro S, S Pro.
Well, that's very German. It's very boring. I mean that in the
Yes.
nicest possible way.
No
Lo
offense
siento
taken.
to our friends in Germany.
No offense taken.
But yeah, no, but one of the things I do have to say is, that's about $10,000 more than like the Pacifica or another minivan. But there are a lot of cool features on the ID Buzz that you're not going to see on other minivans. There's, just the retro styling. And, the one thing that kind of hurts a little bit is you have 3 color options in that base trim, and none of them are fun. So you're going to spend $62,000.
I did not look at the colors. So
Oh, yeah. You're going to spend $62,000 and you're going to get gray,
there isn't a yellow or an orange?
black, or white.
Oh, I'm just going to be
bites.
frank. That sucks.
Yeah, so you have to level up to the next trim to be able to get any
These
of the
should
cool colors and
these
the
should
two-tone.
very much mirror microbus colors.
Well, they do, as long as you level up to the
white
middle
black.
trim.
Oh,
You have to go up. And
That's
then they've
no
got
good.
the cool yellow and blue and
yeah.
then they've got the cool colors.
So there's a first edition, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why everyone's doing first editions of stuff. It's so irritating. That starts at $72K.
To make it collectible.
It's not going to be collectible. All right, so it's 194 inches long, 10 inches shorter than Pacifica, seat 7, 231 to 234 miles of range. Rear-wheel drive models, 282 horsepower. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's all right. All-wheel drive models, 2 dual motors, 335 horse. So it'll move out. It'll move out, so that's good. And I don't know when that's going on sale, but soon because there's pricing.
Yeah, it'll be definitely before the end of the year. I've started seeing some California-based journalists doing some test drives on TikTok.
Oh, okay.
So I haven't heard anything about a media drive coming up, but I know that it's on the North American Car of the Year voting list for vehicles that are going to be available.
Oh, okay. So you'll get into it.
Hopefully I will definitely see it if it makes it through the first round of voting in October at the North American Car of the Year drive.
Hopefully it's a very good vehicle, and hopefully they can do something about that range.
Yeah.
Because that range is going to be a problem. Speaking of range, and this is entirely off topic and not in my notes, but I did just drive the EV9.
Okay.
The Kia EV9.
Mm-hmm.
My good friend Robert Colangelo of Green Sense Radio got a hold of one briefly, and we went and took it out for a drive together. Great vehicle.
It is.
I only found a couple things I didn't like about it that bothered me, and that's that the load floor is very high. And that's partially because it is an SUV with a huge battery.
Yeah.
And so the motor is kind of in an awkward position aft of the third row seats.
Okay.
Driving up the floor. Basically, they had to position it slightly vertically.
Yeah.
So that's one problem. The price is another problem. And I think
EV
that's the problems. Yeah, because the one we drove, fully loaded GT line, 80K,
Yeah.
78K.
Yeah.
So that seemed high. But you can do one with all-wheel drive and the power and the range for about 60.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing you have to think about too is Kia kind of corners the market right now in 3-row EVs.
They do, well, but you can do, yes. I was thinking there was a German car with 3 rows. Am I wrong? The GLS?
I don't know.
Okay, we can.
I think that
I take it back. I just said something I didn't know.
There's the Model X, which has 3 rows, but it's really cramped.
Yeah.
But
you're talking BMW.
Yeah, no, Tesla Model X.
Oh, Model X. I'm sorry. Yes.
And then you have the Volvo EV90, which I drove last week, which is coming out, which will have 3 rows.
Which we were going to talk about today, but we can't.
No, because the embargo isn't lifting.
Weird.
It doesn't lift until September 3rd.
Everything's been awkward at Volvo for a while.
Yeah.
Speaking of awkward.
Yeah, awkward.
We said all sorts of nice things about Mazda 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
And their sales increase and how great those cars are, and the 2-digit cars are so much better and upscale, yada, yada. Turns out that Mazda has spent a historically high amount of money on incentives.
Oh.
So they've been buying those sales. They're not going to make any money on these things right now. So that's a bummer. I really thought this was working, and now I find out maybe it's not.
No, but Mazda is one of those brands that is very underrated. I feel like Lincoln is also another one of those brands, but I really like Mazda.
Lincoln is underrated now.
Fair.
I think for a long time, Lincoln's been really not interesting.
But it's interesting now.
Yeah, the Navigator is very good, and then they just updated the Navigator. I haven't seen it, but it's now getting that wall-to-wall touchscreen, beautiful display, so that's good. And the Nautilus is fantastic.
Yes.
A little pricey. That's their mid-sized car that's now built in China, which probably makes it better. So fun story. The highest quality single vehicle at General Motors is the Chinese-built Buick Envision.
Oh, that's funny.
So if you're worried about American cars built in China, don't worry that much.
Fair.
If you're worried about Chinese cars built in America, worry a lot.
Yes. There you go.
They're coming for our jobs, Jill. All right. How you doing?
You've already asked me that.
Yeah, we're working at breakneck speed here.
Okay.
All right. But you drove, I saw it here last week.
Yes.
Pretty cool looking.
Yes.
GMC Cayon AT4X AEV.
Yes, there's a lot of letters and numbers there.
Yeah. And one of the things about that vehicle is it looks cool and it does not seem practical to drive on a daily basis.
Yes and no. So I have a video coming that I'm going to be posting to the Pickup Truck Talk.
Are there
YouTube
hilarious
channel.
bloopers of you trying to get in it and following?
There's
following?
Falling.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did not fall. But I did. There is video of me getting in and out of the vehicle, and there are no side steps.
But you're nimble.
I am nimble. Did not wear a skirt during the test week because there are no side steps.
Had you, that video might be more popular.
Maybe. But they're rock rails because this is inherently an off-road vehicle. And so over the regular GMC Cayon, it does have a lift. And it might be 2 inches, but it definitely, I don't have that number off the top of my head.
What is a rock rail? It's like a running board that's pulled in tighter?
Yeah, kind of. It just protects the side. Like if you go down hard on a rock, it just protects like your
So it protects the rocker panel.
Yeah.
The rocker. This isn't my day. The rocker panel. And it does not compromise
drink more
ride
caffeine.
I am drunk, but ground clearance isn't compromised.
No.
Okay.
And that's the point with these rock rails is, they kind of come up on the side so that it doesn't compromise any of the maneuverability of this very off-road focused vehicle.
Which is why you put that stuff on there, because you don't care if you damage that stuff.
Exactly.
You just don't want to damage the body.
You don't want to damage the body.
Yeah.
But so I had this in Chicago for a week, and I like to play the Will It Fit game when I have a truck of this size. And so I take pictures of it in front of my city garage, and then I ask people, do you think it will fit? And then I just posted the answer today, and this is on my Instagram, so you can find me at Jill Ciminillo if you're curious about if it fit in my city garage. But I in this video that I have coming for Pickup Truck Talk, I went through an ATM drive-through. I parked in a city space. I just kind of talked about driving on roads with bike lanes.
So let's talk about that for a second. Now, this is equipped with the AEV package, which is the American Expedition Vehicles package.
Yes.
And that's an aftermarket company that makes these parts. GMC has partnered with them to do insane things to the vehicle, mostly to armor clad it.
Yeah, essentially.
So you can get really good-looking beadlock wheels and tires. Well, not beadlock tires, but good-looking tires.
Yeah.
And all sorts of underbody protection. Mm-hmm. First of all, who needs this in the city, and how much does this stuff compromise a regular drive experience? Like, if you want to buy this car, there is a base AT4 with some of this stuff It's more a looky than a doey, but
Yeah.
it's good looking.
Yeah.
How much is your ride experience compromised by adding this stuff?
So, I mean, there's certainly tire noise that comes into the cabin because the chunky off-road tires. But getting in and out of the vehicle is a challenge. It's a challenge for me. I have a video on my Instagram page showing both me and my husband getting in the vehicle. So, it's a challenge getting in. That would get a little bit old on a daily basis. But the one thing I will say is visibility out of the window and over the hood is really good. So that's certainly helpful in a city situation. But this thing is really tall. It's really, it's a midsize truck, so it's not long. But it's tall and it's wide. The fender flares, like when I was turning,
the whole notion that this is a small truck is out the window.
I had to literally hang my head out the window to look at how the tires and the fenders were closing in on things around me.
Funny story about that. Land Rover products, and you've driven older Land Rover products, are actually designed with the seats pushed towards the door because you're supposed to be able to roll down the window, position your arm out the window, and then you should be able to look out the window at the front tire and front wheel to see where you're at.
Yep.
Which you can't really do on stuff anymore.
No, but I was able to do it on the AT4X AEV. So, I mean, to answer your original question, who needs this in a city? Nobody.
I don't remember my original question.
That was your original question, and the answer is nobody. Nobody. Like mid-sized trucks, I can make a case for. Like mid-sized trucks in a city are super helpful, and I think that
I think they've gotten too big, but they're still tidier than a full-size truck.
Definitely, they fit in a garage. But this.
Well, you just answered your own question.
No, I didn't. I said mid-sized because it's tall.
Yeah.
So
height would be the compromising. Okay.
And width, height and width. But length, not the problem. But no, nobody needs this. It's got like a bash bar on the front. It's got skid plates. I mean, unless you're planning on driving over other cars in the city, which by the way is illegal and you shouldn't do that. You don't this specific truck. You don't need in a city. Now, my boss who lives in Nebraska would probably get a lot of good use out of it.
So 2 questions for you.
Okay.
Mileage?
It was like 11 or 12. It was not good.
Those tires kill mileage. And here's one of the reasons, and it's a handling issue too.
Yeah.
If you drive something like a Bronco Raptor or this vehicle, or even less so on the big pickups for some reason, you have these enormous wheels and tires. They're 17-inch wheels, so those aren't enormous, but lots and lots of sidewall.
Yeah.
And the problem is, as you go into a corner, those sidewalls collapse.
Yeah.
So the inside tire kind of collapses and you lean in. But the other thing that happens is those tires are spongy and you lose speed in corners, which means you kind of have to hit the gas a little bit higher after the corner. Terrible for fuel economy.
Yeah.
And terrible for just trying to keep yourself in motion.
Yeah, and EPA estimates the fuel economy on this is 16 miles per gallon, so it was never going to be good, and then I got worse.
Funny thing about this, too, there's just one engine in the entire GMC Cayon lineup, 2.7-liter turbo, 310 horsepower. How was that in this application? And then I want to tell you a funny story.
Okay, and you still have was that your second question?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was really good. I thought it was pretty peppy. It was good on the highway, good to accelerate. And it's sometimes a little bit loud, but I thought the engine was good.
Hilariously, if you read the material promoting this vehicle, they keep referring to this as a truck engine, and it's in Cadillacs. So that's how truck it is. It's in the CT4 and CT5. No, just the CT4, I think. But whatever. But the thing is, that engine had a fun name that they gave up marketing.
Okay.
Do you remember this?
No.
The dual volute engine.
Volute?
Volute.
How do you spell that?
VOL. I don't know if there's 2 L's, UTE, but it might be 1 L.
Well, could it be volute?
No, I don't think so. But the point of the engine was, the dual volute was that there is 2 paths to the turbo, and they're concentric.
Okay.
And I believe this has something to do with it being more or less a dual scroll turbo.
Okay.
As opposed to a twin turbo. Very weird thing, kind of cool technology. You can watch videos about it, but they totally gave up marketing it.
Yeah.
So dual volute, you heard it here maybe for the second time, and you will forget it again.
Yes, you will. I will.
All right, so this vehicle gets pricey, especially when you add the AEV package.
Yeah. So the AEV package is $10,100.
Ouch.
And the test vehicle, in addition to that package, added a couple of other options, including like the sunroof, the power sliding glass, and then there's like underbody cameras. So I want to say this had like something like 12 camera views.
Interesting.
So that's kind of cool and really
That's
good
kind of fun.
in an off-road situation. Also very helpful in a city. I'm just going to put that out
Is
there.
it possible to offload that video?
No, I don't think it is.
Oh, that's a shame.
I don't quote me, but I don't know. And then it had sterling metallic paint, and because we live in Illinois, it had a front license plate bracket. So the as-tested price of the GMC Cayon AT4X was $68,030.
That's rough.
For a midsize truck.
The other thing that's rough, too, is the base price of an elevation base model, $44K.
Yeah.
You're into the mid-40s now.
Yeah.
Now, this is the GMC.
It
You can
is.
do the Chevy cheaper. And we've laughed about this, but GMC has successfully moved the brand up market.
100%.
It really has done that.
Yeah, and their transaction price has gone up, and they're selling just as many of them. And so, their whole philosophy at GMC is, if people are buying it, why don't we make it even more expensive and add more things?
When I was working in fleet leasing in the early 90s, the Chevy Silverado, which was just called the Chevy Pickup then, Silverado was a trim level, and the GMC Sierra, which was just called the GMC Pickup at the time, were $1 apart in price. The prices were literally $1. The GMC was more because of some traditional positioning, but the other way, the vehicles were not different in any other way except for badges and sometimes like seat trim.
Yeah.
So GMC's come a long way.
Yes.
They're professional grade, Jill.
They are professional grade.
All right. So just in a nutshell, you wouldn't buy this thing for the city, but it's pretty cool.
It is 100% in a nutshell. I love this truck.
And if you're not serious about off-roading, maybe go downgrade.
There are some other off-roady versions, like you've got the AT4. You've got there are other. You don't need the AEV package. There are other off-roady versions of this truck that will do just as well.
And the thing about that too, like you get the AT4, just the base AT4, because there's an AT4X, which is this. But let's say the snowpocalypse comes and there's 20 inches of snow, you're still going to look like a hero.
Yeah. That would be the one case in Chicago where you would need this vehicle is when, snowpocalypse comes.
So there you have it.
Yeah.
All right. So cool vehicle. I hope to drive that soon. I have not driven it yet. I haven't driven any of these. I don't know why. I just never get them on my schedule. I haven't driven the Ranger either, which is redesigned or freshened.
I haven't had the Ranger as a test car yet.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Yeah.
We should take a break. When we come back, we talk to Brendan Appel of the Sons of Speed about Mustangs. All right. We'll be right back.
Questions or comments?
Drop us a line at carstuff@consumerguide.com.
That's carstuff@consumerguide.com. Welcome back to the Car Stuff Podcast.
All right, we're back. This is the Consumer Guide Car Stuff Podcast. I'm Tom. She's Jill, and Jill is done with her chili. Did we introduce the chili earlier?
We introduced the chili earlier.
Okay. I didn't want to bring up a topic that we had not fully introduced.
No, but I did put 3 packets of hot sauce in it, so it was good chili.
All right, speaking of that, I got quick editorial questions about introducing topics.
Okay.
If you use, first of all, a Corvette, if you mention a Corvette in an article, first reference, do you bother with Chevy?
Yes.
Okay, you do.
And I say Chevrolet.
Okay, so that answers 2 questions. Because Corvette's one of those things where it feels like people know what it is. All right, that's one. And the other one, I had this conversation with Damon Bell, and Damon is very strict on certain things, grammatical. You mentioned a city that is very much exclusively that city in something you write. Do you bother with the state? Chicago, San Francisco, Miami.
It depends on
Paris.
if I'm datelining it or if
no, you're just referencing it.
Probably not if it's a city that is like now. There's Paris, Indiana. Like I would
and Texas.
I would mention Paris, Indiana, but I probably I don't know if I would say Paris, France or not. I mean it would. Yeah, I mean if it wasn't
London.
Super, yeah, London,
Tokyo.
Yeah.
It just seems like you don't have to do it. Like people know what you're talking
with
about.
With that, I probably wouldn't. Although
New York's a problem because you got to cover the state or city thing. But
yeah, New York.
Yeah,
New York.
So you do have to mention that, but I don't for like that. Like I think if you mention driving Chicago to Milwaukee, you're covered. There's one Milwaukee and one Chicago that everyone thinks about.
That I feel fair about. I feel okay about that. Now
right.
it's really funny. If like my boss Tim is listening to this, he would probably be like, "How are you okay with this?" Because I'm like the grammar Nazi, and I give him a hard time about stupid grammatical things all the time. So But this one I think I'm okay with.
See, I have a grammatical pet peeve that cannot be fixed or reversed.
Okay.
And that's referring to a TikTok post as a TikTok. Oh, God, it's killing me.
Why?
A TikTok?
Yeah.
So a TikTok is an account. It's a video.
But Google has become the company and a verb. I Googled that.
Yeah, I don't even like Google as a verb, actually.
Yeah,
Although I think I've acquiesced to it. I think I use that.
But do you tweet?
I do tweet.
See?
But I think that was
actually
that was actually intentionally part of the initial language, though.
I think that
Twitter
TikTok
did
was
establish that as a verb.
intentionally a part of the language as well.
Oh, God.
Get over it.
Anyway, I'm on Twitter. That was a good segue.
There you go.
We
Social
never
media
do
segue.
good segues. We do terrible segues.
You do terrible segues. I think I instituted this segue, so that was a good one.
I'm on Twitter, Car Guy Tom. Also, we got that great review that people need to check out. Only because I think I was described as brilliant, but they said thank you, Jill. It's like, but why are you getting the credit for this?
Because I'm awesome.
Oh, God.
That was actually on one of our podcasts. It looked like it was a review on one of our podcasts.
I don't remember where it came from.
Yeah, and that's why they were thanking me.
Yeah, well, they actually said that they had listened to you elsewhere
Mm-hmm.
and then listened to you on this podcast, and it was like, oh my God, your car podcast is really good. I was like, yeah, see,
Yep. But so was my other one.
that was good. This was better, according to the reviewer.
Got it.
I'm not putting words in this guy's mouth.
Got it.
Anyway, who cares? All right. But if you feel like giving us a review, do that, please.
Yes, on anywhere.
Especially on Apple, but anywhere.
Yes.
So if you're listening to us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, we would appreciate the review.
As long as it's like 5 stars.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife gave us 4 stars. We have like 1 4-star rating. It was my wife. Like,
I think I love Jill even more now.
what the heck?
That's awesome.
I think we have 1 or 2 4-star reviews, and one of them is my wife.
I love your wife.
We had a perfect review going. Perfect.
Yeah.
Until my wife.
Well, you know.
Oh, man. That hurts. All right, in studio with us, Brendan Appel of the Sons of Speed. Brendan, how are you today?
Great, Tom. How are you guys doing?
All right, thanks for suffering through that.
Yeah, we figured we'd get there eventually.
But we haven't had you on in a long time. Remind us about the Sons of Speed.
So Sons of Speed is an automotive company that my friend Paul Harold and I run, and we are the company that tries to wring the performance soul out of every vehicle, no matter what it is that we're driving. We try to really get to what it makes you feel like inside. Does it stir the performance soul? And we do it through videos. We do it through some TikTok, and we do it with some written articles. So you can find us at sonsofspeed.com, and from there you can get to all of our other stuff.
So speaking of videos, you shared 2 videos with Jill and I before the show. And one of them is the Ford Mustang Dark Horse up at Road America.
Yes.
And that is an outstanding video for a bunch of reasons. So you're driving, and you're kicking it like 8/10. You're driving pretty hard, but not crazy.
Well, our motto at Sons of Speed is that our 7/10 is your 10/10.
That's a very good point. For people who don't know what we're talking about, that's literally how hard you're driving on a track. 10/10 means you're crazy and you're probably breaking rules and stuff like that.
Well, you're driving to the limits, your limits, as well as the car's limits, is what that is.
That's correct.
But the point is that the video, which is incredibly tight and articulate, it also makes a really good preview of what that track is like. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about the track, you're talking about the car, what you need to do. It's just a really informative video. So congrats. People want to see that, and we will link to that.
Thank you.
But you drove the Ford Mustang Dark Horse. Tell us about that car.
That car is we have a series called The Lap, and that's where we go up to this rally with the Midwest Automotive Media Association, which you guys are all members of, and we love it. And we go up there, and they basically have a whole fleet of cars. You can just jump in one and take a lot of them onto the racetrack. And we started doing, we had a bunch of video from the very first one when I think we attended in maybe 2017. And we said, what are we going to do with all this video? Like, how does this work? Are we doing a separate video? Are we doing one video? And we came up with the idea that let's do a new series called The Lap, where basically we're jumping in a car, and at Road America, we're getting in it for, it's really less than a lap because it's kind of like 5/6 of a lap because you don't get the front
straight. Because we're journalists and they don't trust us.
No, they do not trust us.
We don't get to do the full straightaway at the end, right?
Yeah. We don't get the full straightaway. We do it. What is the long straight after, is it after turn 3?
Yes. So
we get that.
4 is a fake turn. It's not really a turn, but yeah, you get that. And then, of course, since they don't trust us, they put a chicane right in the middle of it to make sure that we slow down. And they do the same thing right before Canada
But
corner.
we can still
too.
Go pretty quick.
It does. And the nice thing is actually the extra chicanes, while slowing us down, though, help us determine okay, it's a quick left, right, left. And you get the feel of how well the car is shifting its weight around. Mm-hmm. And this car did a great job at that. So when we were doing, I think 2019 was the year we got the GT350 and we did a lap on that. And that car was by far, and we've driven some very fantastic cars on this racetrack, faster cars, but that car was the most fun we ever had.
That is
in a car on the racetrack.
About the most dedicated track Mustang there is, right?
Yeah. I mean, you could argue that the GT500 is a little more dedicated, but that's automatic only. We love the Lord's transmission, which is known as the manual. But the GT350 was the most fun car we've ever had on track. So much so that actually we took it twice. We switched drivers because it was just, and it just put this giant smile on our face. This car, the Dark Horse, came as close to that as any other car. And we've driven the Mach 1 and we had the GT500 and we've had other Mustangs out on that racetrack, the GT. Nothing came close to the GT350 that the Dark Horse did. And it sounds great. It's got wider tires than the GT. It's got some better suspension bits, a little more power. And it just handles itself really well on the racetrack.
Speaking of the Dark Horse and the GT350, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No, I'm just like, I'm just agreeing. This is me nodding.
The GT350 was pretty committed, and that had the flat plane crank.
The 5.2 Voodoo, which is the best engine name ever.
And that went to the Mach 1, which was the conventional Coyote 5-liter.
Yeah, we did not like that one as much.
And then now there's the Dark Horse. And it feels like the premium version, the premium track-ready version of the Mustang has been milded out a little bit for a couple of generations now.
Yeah, and I wish they would bring back the 5.2 flat plane crank. I think they had some quality control issues with it, although a lot of people have had no
with the
problems.
engine itself?
Yeah, it had some issues. Some people had some issues, let's just say. I think the majority of them were fine. I loved that vehicle. It revved so high that I think the first half of the lap I was still shifting like where the Mustang, the normal Mustang shift at. It was about 7,250, but that thing actually revved out to another 1,000 RPMs. And you just had to get used to the fact that you have a Mustang that's revving out to 8,250. And so I wish they'd bring that back. Short of that, this Dark Horse is really awesome. If we ever get the chance to drive their $350,000 custom one, which would be awesome. I think it's called the GT something. We did a video. GTD.
Yeah.
And we did a video with one of the designers of that, or I can't remember if he's a designer or marketing, but at the auto show, we talked extensively about that. There's a video on our YouTube page on that. But and short of that, I think that this, unless they do some Shelby versions of this Mustang, this Dark Horse is probably going to be the best thing you can get into for a track car. In the current generation of Mustang.
We should talk real quick about what a flat plane crank does, to the extent that I understand what it is. But a crankshaft usually allows an engine to fire at 4 points around the rotation of a crank. This is 2 points.
Right.
And things happen there. When the crank is lighter.
Exactly, which lets you rev higher.
Yeah, and you don't care about if it's rough or not. So you don't have counterbalancing on the crank.
Right.
And then there's a weird thing with exhaust evacuation, which is hard to explain easily, but it prevents that vacuum that happens when exhaust is exhausting. So basically, you don't have that pull of the exhaust in a vacuum as you're rotating. It revs higher and spins freer.
And if you've ever heard a naturally aspirated Ferrari, and you just marvel at that sound, that's a flat plane crank in Italian form. And the new Corvette Z06 uses the same technology, which is why it sounds a lot different than the LT. What are they up to? The LT2 now, I think. The normal, Stingray motor.
Yeah, and it's not suitable for regular daily driving cars because it's not very well balanced. It's loud, and there's a lot of problems with it. And you do want to smoothen that.
In other words, perfect for a Mustang.
Yeah, but perfect for a Mustang. Yeah, it's a great high performance thing. It's a shame that they're not building that engine anymore. And
it really is.
I forgot that it was called Voodoo because that's the icing on the cake. What a great noise.
Or icing on the Voodoo donut, maybe.
That's a great noise, but people, if you hear a Mustang that sounds weird, that could be why.
Yeah, those things are actually, I don't think they've lost $1 in value since the day they rolled off the lot. I mean, they're still very highly prized.
Do you know how many were made?
I don't.
I don't either.
But it wasn't a ton.
So what model years was that in?
That was 20, I want to say 20, 16 or 17 through like 20. I think the first one was in 2016 for sure. And then I think the last one might have rolled off in 20. So it wasn't a very long run, and they didn't make them in huge numbers, but they were a bargain too. They were probably cheaper than, well, raw dollars. I don't know, inflation did its thing, so you can't really, I can speak to raw dollars. It was about what this Dark Horse was going to run, about 70, high 60s, low 70s. I
could see those being totally collectible.
Yeah, they are totally collectible. If you find one that's in good shape, that doesn't have any issues with the motor, buy one. And the other thing I love about it, though, it as much as I dislike the GT500 for being automatic only, GT350 was manual only.
Which in itself kind of makes it special.
It does.
Oh, so how much was the Dark Horse you drove?
I think it was about 73-ish.
About 73.
Because it was pretty fully loaded. It had the track pack and, the Trofeo R tires. And so they're wider tires than on the GT. And we did get a chance to drive the GT on the street. We didn't get a chance to take it to the track. But that one was already up to 63,000. And so if you're talking like 10,000 difference, you might want to take a hard look, because they start the Dark Horse starts where this GT was basically ending up, because they added in like the track pack and a bunch of options, some of which you wouldn't want, but like the Recaro seats and other things like that. So before you load up a GT, go ahead and do what you want to do to it on the build, on the build site, and then go check out what a Dark Horse would cost you, because it might not be that much more, and I guarantee you're going to get a better resale on that Dark Horse down the line.
Interesting thing about the GT too is that when you're building a GT, especially with a manual, there's a GT performance pack.
Yes,
$5,000.
Yeah, it's so expensive. And that's what I mean. Like,
but I don't know how you look at that and then don't buy that package.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you're buying the V8, there's certain things that should be included in certain cars, and then you're talking about a V8 Mustang, unless you're selling them to a rental fleet. Which they do. The convertibles are always like
super popular.
Yeah, super popular, especially like in sunny places. But short of that, just throw it on there. I mean, it's.
But they usually sell the V6 into the rental fleets.
Yeah, which is now the 4-cylinder. They don't even.
Yeah,
have
I'm
that
like, let's be honest. It's a convertible, and it's
I once had a Mustang GT. It was unfortunately automatic, because they don't put sticks in the rental fleets in the U.S. On Kauai, I got a V8 Mustang GT convertible, white, and it was the best rental like I've ever had. It was.
I don't even know why they would rent that.
I don't either. But
if you're looking for a convertible, you're going to take what you can get, which is the Mustang.
Yeah, and it was like budget. It wasn't like exotic rental.
There aren't a lot of 4-seat convertibles left. Not affordable.
No.
And
they're not going to put Mercedes into the fleet. What was I going to ask you about that real quick? Oh, the other video you did, the TikTok video.
Yes.
You did basically a walk around of the GT.
Yes, and we did a drive with that as well. So it was kind of like a full review, as full as you can get on the TikTok. But it was impressive. I have a lot of good things to say about it, starting with the fact that it is stick. It has a great rev match. So this all applies to the Dark Horse too. It sounds fantastic. You have all of these different exhaust modes you can do. You could even quiet it down if you don't want to really, hack off the neighbors. And but it and the track one I love is labeled like track use only, because it's probably too loud for California's new drive-by regulations. but it sounds amazing. It drives really, really good, and it's just got all of the best part about that car. You can pick the gauge cluster, and you can switch it to the 87 to 93 Fox body Mustang gauges. And
that's very cool.
I tell you, I kid you not. Of all of the ones I could have chose from, that's the one I went with all the time, because I loved it. It just looked so cool. Yeah. And they even have the little red 55 mile an hour.
You pointed that out in the video.
Yes.
That made me laugh. You need to be pretty old to remember having to drive 55 miles an hour.
Yeah. And if think, just next time you're on the highway, just, don't get pulled over for driving too slow, but drive 55 on like an expressway and think about how slow that is. And then go listen to Sammy Hagar's I Can't Drive 55 and totally sympathize with everything he's saying in that song, because you cannot. It's so slow. You're just like, I am not actually moving.
I have to turn on cruise control if I'm going to drive 55.
I have never questioned Jimmy Carter's dedication to the environment or to people. I think he was a nice guy, and I think he meant well. But the 55 mile an hour speed limit, dang, that was rough. And you remember the commercials at the time? You may not remember these.
No.
The government was doing commercials. 55, it's faster than you think. And it's like, no, it's not. It's
really
awful.
not.
It's
awful. It's like the first gaslighting ever.
You know, and then they're like showing you like going 75 miles an hour, it'll take you an hour and 20 minutes. Going 55, it'll take you, 2 hours only. That's bad.
Yes.
You're not helping sell this here.
No.
Yeah.
And our point about the Mustang is that it is the last muscle car standing. You think about, we're in 2024 now, you lost the Challenger and the Charger, for at least for now. You lost the Camaro, and this is the last V8 muscle car, pony car that there is. And it's been around for 60 years, since 1964 and a half. That's, it's something that Ford has stuck with this, because it's only really for the enthusiasts. You look at it like a communist country in the 80s. They weren't building fun cars. They were building cars to get someone from A to B at as cheaply as possible. And nobody needs a Mustang. Nobody needs a Corvette. Nobody needs a Bugatti. But they build these cars because people still appreciate the driving experience. They love that feeling.
Those are kind of the last people buying these. One of the interesting things about Camaros, Firebirds, especially, and Mustangs, is that there used to be a class of vehicle called the secretary's car. And it was the base engine, usually with kind of a nice interior and not much other equipment. And it was just a commuter car. And people used to accept a relatively impractical coupe as a car because it was fun and looked good. And people don't do that anymore.
No.
So I've got some crazy numbers here. 1965, if you include 64 and a half, which was 65, that's a very weird extension of that. But the car did change significantly during its 65 run. Ford sold an amazing 680,000.
That is a mind-boggling number, people.
Yeah, and then in 74, which was the year before they downsized, or maybe this is calendar year and includes the downsize.
You mean to the Mustang 2?
Yeah, to the Mustang 2, they sold 386,000. In 79, when they went to the Fox body, which was arguably great looking.
Oh, yeah.
The first ones were dogs, but they were great looking. 380,000. And last year, 48,000.
Yeah.
And this year we're on pace to do about 50,000. So this vehicle is not long for the world in its current form. Jill and I talked about this last week. They're talking about doing a four-door version and a Baja version, and I think we need to accept those.
Well, here's what I would say.
Or the Mustang itself will go away.
We did a video comparing the Mustang Mach-E to the Mustang. It's a couple of years old now. I think probably since the Mustang Mach-E came out. And our question was, is it a Mustang? And then you will never get an end to that debate, right?
No.
There are people on both sides that are like, no, it's a heresy, or yes, it has all the same characteristics that people like about Mustangs, except for the fact that it's electric. Now, I will say my preference would be pick a different horse's name. If you're going to do a four-door, call it the Stallion. Pick some other name that still sort of rhymes with the Mustang theme.
Right.
But isn't a Mustang, because you're just diluting your brand at that point.
Don't use gelding.
No, that's probably not. There's some other ones you probably don't want to use. I like Stallion. No one's ever picked that.
Stallion's good.
Yeah. So I want royalties on that Ford.
Pinto was a great name.
No, it wasn't.
No, it hurts now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I guess if you take a name and you make a great car, it turns the name good.
Yeah.
And the vice versa.
Because Pinto's a fun name, and it's got a Southwesty feel to it. But yeah, the Pinto itself.
Not so good.
But it's also a bean.
Yeah, we could talk about that some other day, but the Pinto was actually what it was supposed to be. It was really affordable to own and operate.
It was supposed to be not so good?
It wasn't that bad.
Like saying the Yugo is what it was supposed to be.
The Vega was bad. The Chevy Vega, which was another small car that came out at the same time, it had reliability issues. The Pinto actually was easy to keep running.
As long as you didn't rear-end it.
It was just awful to drive. It was just crude. I learned to drive stick in a Pinto.
In the late 70s were not kind to the automotive market in the United States, nor to the Mustang. So the Mustang 2 is sort of the forgotten, well-deserved forgotten.
All right, you're going to stick around for the quiz, right?
I sure am.
But before we take a break, I think we have one more question.
What's that?
That we already teased.
What's that?
Yes. That would be the upcoming Charger Daytona.
Let's talk about that after the quiz.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
Questions or comments?
Drop us a line at carstuff@consumerguide.com.
That's carstuff@consumerguide.com. Welcome back to the Car Stuff Podcast.
All right, we're back. This is the Consumer Guide Car Stuff Podcast. I'm Tom. She's Jill. He's Brendan. Brendan's sticking around for the quiz. Thanks for doing that. Jill, briefly, social media. Are you involved in any way?
I'm kind of involved.
Yeah.
Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, Threads. I'm on all of the places at Jill Ciminillo, and I use the hashtag car du jour.
Sounds good.
Yep.
All right, it's quiz time. Brendan is our guest today. I've got 2 quizzes ready here.
Okay.
One of them we're going to do next week, one this week. Brendan, you can decide. The topics are, was it a Pontiac, or what did it cost, Porsche edition?
Pontiac.
All right.
I think I've already lost that Porsche quiz.
I've probably lost the Pontiac quiz, so here
All
we
right.
go.
Fun fact, we used to own a 66 Pontiac Bonneville convertible. I actually owned a Firebird too, so may have a little leg up.
The deck is stacked against me.
I'm a Pontiac fan. Might be my favorite General Motors division. After that,
Definitely.
it's probably Oldsmobile. Pontiac, just real quick, introduced in 1926. Here's a fun thing, and a lot of people don't know about this. General Motors companion brands. Pontiac was a companion brand. I don't know if people remember this, but Pontiac joined Oakland, and around the same time, Cadillac was joined by LaSalle, Buick by Marquette, and Oldsmobile by Viking. So there were 8 General Motors brands for a while.
Wow.
Crazy, but that was just part of the Alfred P. Sloan ladder, where you would buy a Chevy, and then as you became wealthier or more interested in a nicer car, you would just step up. And for a while, there were 8 brands. But Pontiac actually just usurped Oakland's position. Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
And fun fact, a lot of Pontiac clubs will be referred to as Pontiac/Oakland clubs.
Do they still?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oaklands are rare. All these companion cars are rare.
Yeah.
All right. Ready? I'm going to give you a car. You have to tell me if it was real.
Okay.
That's it. 5 questions. There's a bonus question, too, which is lengthy, but we'll get to it. All right. Our guest starts first. Brendan, was there ever a car called the J2000 in the Pontiac lineup? J2000.
There was definitely a 2000. Did they throw a J in front of it? Honestly, not sure. I'm going to say yes. I think so.
Jill, this question goes to you.
You just nodded at his answer.
Because I heard it.
Uh-huh. Or were you agreeing with him?
I don't know.
As he nodded again. I've honestly never heard of a numeric Pontiac, but it's probably before my time. I'm going to say no.
Yes. And here's how it gets weird. It was one of the J cars. The J2000 was one of General Motors' famous J cars that included the Cavalier, the Skyhawk, and the Forenza. But the weird thing was J2000 was just 1982.
Okay.
For 83, they changed the name to 2000.
I knew it.
For 83, they changed it to 2000 Sunbird. And for 84, they changed it to Sunbird.
Yeah, that was a marketing department that didn't know where it wanted to go.
No, and that would become Sunfire much later on.
Sounds like
Right.
today.
All right.
Yeah.
Brendan has 1 point. Jill, since you
Wait, don't you want to say?
I have no points. Your favorite phrase.
I know. I didn't want to let that moment
yeah.
pass.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Jill,
Ah.
you have no points.
Yeah,
All
uh-huh.
right. I did want to say that. Thank you.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
yeah. And so because there are 2 of us, the normal rules apply in that, like, the
And-
winner takes the most
Yep.
points.
Yep. 5 questions plus a bonus question. Bonus question always related to the topic of the day. Jill, was there a T1000?
I feel like that's
Everything's
a
a
movie.
letter and a number.
I feel like that's a movie reference of some sort. I'm going to say no.
Dun, 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 dun. Yes.
Yes, there was. It was Chevy. It was Pontiac's version of the Chevette.
Okay.
I think it was also a Terminator.
And they
I
had,
know. I'm like, that sounds like a movie thing.
Pontiac had intended to go entirely alphanumeric, and the 6000 was going to be called the A6000, but they finally didn't do that.
Thank God.
All right, Brendan, was there a Parisian?
There was a Parisian. Was it a Pontiac? Parisian. That's like, you're talking like late 70s.
And right now, Sam Fiorani's listening. He's just dying to talk about the Parisian.
And he's
Whether or not
probably
it was a
shaking his
Pontiac.
head at me right now. Sorry, Sam.
Was it a model or a submodel?
I'm talking about models here.
I feel like they applied it at some point to a submodel, but I can't remember if it's Pontiac or not. I will say yes.
I'm just going to keep it interesting. I'm going to say no.
Yes, and the Parisian story is interesting. There were Parisians as top trim levels through the years, through the decades, but in the 80s things got really interesting because Pontiac downsized out of its Catalina and Bonneville.
Right.
And they came up with the Bonneville Model G, which was just a Le Mans with a big grille. It was kind of sad. And then around this time, the companion at Chevy, the Caprice and the Impala, became very popular. So Pontiac was responding to inflation and to gas prices, all of which people seem to forget about because the Caprice became very popular.
Right.
So they brought the car back, the old Pontiac and the Bonneville and Catalina, as the Parisian.
That's what I remember it looking like.
And then making things more confusing, Parisian was what they always called that vehicle in Canada.
Oh, interesting. It's funny that they didn't have the Caprice Englishman or something like.
No. So you have 3 points.
You've already won.
Yeah.
I cannot win.
All right.
Pontiac is not my jam.
So you went there. Jill, was there a Sport Fury, a Pontiac Sport Fury?
No.
I'll say yes.
There was. Or there was not. I'm sorry. You're right.
Oh, it's
there was. Oh, it was a Chevy.
It was a Plymouth.
Oh, a Plymouth. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
and
right.
I think the last Sport Fury was 79, and it was basically
That's
just
right. The Plymouth Sport Fury.
a
I
cheap
should have known
Cordoba.
Woohoo! I got a point.
Jill, you're on the board.
that. I'm clapping.
I'm not completely goose egged.
Brendan, was there a Pontiac Delta Flyer?
There was no, I don't think so.
I'm making a horrible face. I have no idea. I'm gonna say no. I'm just gonna stick with my no theme.
There was not.
Okay.
That was an
So you-
Oldsmobile, wasn't it?
I don't know.
There was the
I made it
Oldsmobile
up.
You made it
Delta.
up.
There was the Delta 88, Delta
88.
Royal.
I figured they probably.
Yeah. I don't know if there was a flyer
in there.
So there you have it. 3 for Brendan, 2 for Jill.
No, I had 4.
Oh, you had 4. All right. Finally, 23 flavors of Dr. Pepper. Did you know that Dr. Pepper is a magic recipe, includes 23 flavors?
Yes, and I heard a rumor that if you don't have Dr. Pepper but you want it, just I forget if it's 2 parts Coke to 1 part root beer.
Really?
We'll get you Dr. Pepper.
Wow, this suggests otherwise. This is very complicated. But Dr. Pepper was created in the 1880s by pharmacist Charles Adelchen in Waco, Texas, and first served to customers in 1885. All right. Way before Coke was being laced with cocaine and 7-Up with lithium. Did you know about 7-Up and
I
lithium?
heard that yesterday or today.
That's
I
crazy.
cannot
No.
believe that story.
All right, Joe, I need you to tell me which of the following is not one of the 23 flavors
Okay.
of Dr. Pepper. Ready?
Yeah.
Nutmeg, birch, prickly ash, or celery salt?
That's funny. Okay, so I'm going to digress for a moment.
Okay, we got 4 minutes.
Okay, just
Digress briefly.
quick story. So whenever I'm cooking anything, when my dad was still alive, I would be missing an ingredient. I would be calling him and I'm like, Dad, this just doesn't taste right. And he'd be like, did you add nutmeg? And I'm like, no. So I would add nutmeg. So I think nutmeg is definitely
Okay.
an ingredient.
All right.
What were the other ones?
Birch, prickly ash, and celery salts.
Okay, so to me, Dr. Pepper is very sweet. So I'm going to say celery salt was not.
Sir?
I don't know what prickly ash is, but I also don't think celery salt would fit in there. So I'll say celery salt.
You're
too.
both correct.
Okay.
Very quickly, the ingredients are cola, cherry, licorice, amaretto, almond, vanilla, blackberry, apricot, blackberry twice. That's not my cut and paste problem. Caramel, pepper, anise, sarsaparilla, ginger, molasses, lemon, plum, orange, nutmeg, cardamom, allspice, coriander, juniper, birch, and prickly ash. That's
Wow.
complicated.
Somebody,
All right.
Somebody write in and tell us what prickly ash is.
Brendan,
Yeah.
I'm autographing this for you, and we were going to get your take very quickly on your thoughts on an electric muscle car, specifically becoming Charger Daytona.
The problem with electric muscle cars is that part of the experience is not only the sound, but the smell and the rumble.
And the vibration.
The rumble, that's
Yeah.
what I mean, the vibration of the car. Like that is, muscle car started in about 63 with the Pontiac Catalina / GTO and the Pontiac Fact. Wow. The idea was stuff a huge engine into a small car. That was how the muscle car craze sort of evolved. And there's nothing better than getting like your hands on or just around an old like late 60s to early 70s muscle car and just feeling it, smelling it, listening to the engine lope, especially if it's got a high camshaft. Like there's just it's a 360 visceral experience. It's kind of like watching a movie in 4 or 5D versus at your home in 2D with no surround sound. And that's kind of what I think. The unfortunately electric cars, it's like the microwave of cooking. And, you get there faster. I just got beat yesterday by a Model Y in my Corvette. So, I mean, my wife was in the car too. And she's like, holy moly, what is that thing? I said, it's a Model Y. Well, it killed you. Yeah, it sure did. But it wasn't as fun for him as it was for me. So, that's my problem. So I'm glad that they're bringing out a gas version. I'm not happy that they're calling it the 6-pack because that's blasphemy to anybody who knows what the 6-pack was, which was a 6-barrel carburetor that they put in cars in the 77.
I believe it was 3 2-barrel Webers.
Yep.
Yeah.
And fun fact,
impossible to keep tuned.
Well, no, the 8-barrel was impossible to keep tuned.
I don't remember an 8-barrel.
That was what they put on the Hemi.
Oh wait, that
quads.
was 2 4-barrels. Okay, dual quads. All right.
But the 6-pack was awesome because it would run on the middle 2 barrels in normal driving, and only when you floored it, it would open the other 2.
I did not know that.
So it was actually more fuel efficient, and they were going to put it on a 72 426 Hemi, but that whole thing died with the oil embargo and insurance and stuff like that. So they never got to a 72 Hemi, but it would have had a 6-pack instead of the dual quads.
Fun fact, in that 2 barrels tend to generate more torque early than 4 barrels. So if you can have that run on a true 2-barrel until you engage the other 2 barrels, maybe you're getting a little better torque down low too.
That's probably true. And the 444 barrel was, or 6-pack, I should say, was the back then.
One of the things I wanted to point out, we're running completely out of time here, was simply that an electric muscle car, an electric drag racing car, there's nothing left for anyone to do.
Exactly.
Front motor, rear motor, just hit the gas.
It's like that Office Space meme that says, what would you say you do here? Like,
yeah.
What are you doing?
It is unfun.
All right. Been a fun show. Brendan, thank you for sticking around. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Thanks to Brendan of the Sons of Speed. Thank you, Jill. Thank you to producer Randy and the good folks here at Talk Zone. What are we going to do? We are going to have a live show next week.
Yeah.
Not live.
Recorded.
We're going to have a show next week.
We are going to have a show next week.
Yeah, so new show next week despite the holiday.
Yes.
All right, sounds good. Let's talk more about cars next holiday week.
Yes.
All right.
Remember to check us out at consumerguide.com.
The Car Stuff Podcast is produced by J-Turn Media.
To advertise on the show, please drop us a line at carstuff@consumerguide.com.